All right, first thing you want to do is go ahead and preheat your oven for this size of a turkey, which is roughly 19 pounds. We're going to go 325. Okay, in a bowl I've got 2 tablespoons of kosher salt, 1 teaspoon of black pepper, 1 teaspoon of granulated garlic, 1 teaspoon thyme, and then we're going to go 1 teaspoon of paprika to give that turkey a little extra color. Mix it up. Remember to use kosher salt. You don't want to use iodized salt. So essentially we're doing a 6-to-1 ratio. And this is what you'll need for your turkey. Alright, so to roast your turkey, you want to use a half sheet pan. You're going to get a roasting rack. Place that on there. Alright, so next thing you want to do, remove all the neck bone and the giblets. You're going to pat the turkey dry. What you're going to do is you're going to get the wings and you're going to tuck them underneath. Just get the wing here, go underneath. Make sure it's completely dry. Alright, we're going to hit it with some olive oil. Make sure you get it nice. You could use butter as well, but olive oil works really good. Get in between nicely. You can do the bottoms if you want. Then we're going to use our spice mix. Place it on there. And you want to be generous on this. It's going to give you the flavor for your gravy. So this should, make sure you get that all on there. Again, a generous amount. We're going to go on the back side as well. Turn it around. Get the back side. And we're going to get the rest of this. Place it on, again, evenly. And there we go. We're going to go into the oven. Make sure you get it nicely adjusted. All right, get that turkey. It goes right into the oven. All right, our turkey's in the oven. As you can see, as far as the little timer, you can pretty much go by it, but again, I would highly recommend you get a probe thermometer. These timers probably usually go about 10 degrees over, anywhere from 5 to 10 degrees over. We're looking at 165 internal cooking temperature. I pull mine at 160. I let it rest for at least an hour before I break it down. I'm going to go ahead and check it roughly every 45 minutes. This turkey should take anywhere from 2 hours to 2.5 hours for this size. All right, we have 45 minutes into it. As you can see, we have that nice little fond, which is that nice little drippings from that turkey. What we're going to eventually do is we're going to pour some water in there. We don't want these to burn. We want them to stay nice and brown. So we're going to rotate this turkey, give it another maybe 30-35 minutes, and then we'll check it. And then we'll begin to add the water. And this will basically do two things. It's going to keep our turkey from over browning, and at the same time we're going to get that gravy from this. All right, here we go. So we gave it some more time here. We've got this fond going down. We're going to go ahead and rotate again, as you can see it. We'll get a nice good color. We've got that nice beautiful fond. This is your gravy. Okay, so we're going to add 2 cups of water. And there you go. All right. And let's go ahead and give it another 30 to 45 minutes. All right, turkey is done. I just checked it. It's at 160 degrees. So these little timers that they have on them usually probably pop out about 175. So we're going to go 160. We let it rest. Okay, we're going to let this rest for at least an hour before we begin to carve. Now, as far as removing it, if you want to use a turkey baster to remove all that juice, if you're not comfortable removing it, just get a turkey baster, remove those juices, put them into a container. Otherwise, just remove it, and we'll go ahead and let it rest for at least another hour. It's going to carry over at least 10 degrees, at least. So you're going to be about 170 when you carve it, 170, 175. And that's what we're looking for perfect turkey and gravy. All right, let's take a look at it. So we just removed it from the oven. As you can see, it's nice and golden brown. One indicator that you know that your turkey is cooked. You look at that leg, you see that it's drawn some of that skin back. That's a great indicator there. Usually about 1 inch to 2 inches back is a good indicator that it's cooked. We're going to turn this around so you can see it's nice and golden brown. No foil necessary. Okay, you can put a 22, 25 pound turkey, and again, the bigger or the larger the turkey is, the lower the temperature. So 25 pounder, 275, and then monitor it rotating. All right, we're going to let this sit for at least an hour. Then we will show you how to carve it, and then we will make the gravy. Okay, so we're ready to carve. It's been about an hour, at least an hour. So one thing you want to do is you want to go ahead and drain your juice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the juice. I'm going to drain it into a pan. Again, this is your gravy. And just be careful. Grab a hold of the turkey from the back. You got all this beautiful gravy that we're going to make. Before we do that, we are going to carve the turkey. And here we go. All right, the first thing you want to do, so I'm going to have the breast placed on the top. So, and then again, I'll remove this. This kind of keeps it together. So I'm going to turn, and again, let me grab a knife. And here we go, we're going to get a bony knife here. Just cut right in here, cut here. We're going to turn it around, take it off the rack. And we're going to place the dark meat on the bottom. So we're just basically going to take this off. It should come right off. Still fairly hot, but that's good. Settled. Place these in here. We're going to break these all down. And there's just a little joint here that you can just remove. You could literally just remove it with your hand if it's not too. Okay. And then we're going to grab all this excess meat. All right, so what I've done is and again, if I've had 2 sheet pans, I would have went ahead and just kept that turkey in there and just got all the drippings out. But what I'm going to do here is I've got a pan. We're going to place a little towel here. We're going to keep this basically, and I like to do this just to keep any of the juices from going on the table. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this is the dark meat. You're going to have extra juice too. And we're going to set this aside as well. So again, we'll break down the dark meat. Just kind of pull it apart, wiggle your knife, cut through. Again, find the joint, and then cut. All right. So we're going to go ahead and take off the bone. And I'm going to use these bones to make stock. So we'll set these aside and we'll make stock for, like, if I'm doing a dressing or for anything soups, for when you're done with your turkey and you have extra turkey, you can use the stock for that. So again, put gloves on if it's a little hot. If you want to let it set, this sat almost 2 hours. It's still a little warm. And take off the excess meat off of this. All right, looks like we got all of it here. Take out the thigh bone. This thing is perfectly cooked, and as you can see, that little thermometer on the top probably would have went another probably at least 30 to 45 minutes, and it wouldn't have popped out until the turkey's at least 175. So this I'll set aside. We have your thigh. We have your leg, which you can just pull off. And we'll save the for that. And I like to take out the cartilage. So again, that's something I wouldn't want to eat. So again, you might this is the only part that's going to probably be a little more time consuming. As you can see, we got some cartilage on that. And then just kind of pick through it. And then of course the back side has a lot of the cartilage. So you can just kind of remove that. So you want to get it from the back of the leg and just kind of scrape along the back of the leg, just like this. Okay, this could be used for turkey stock as well. Okay, so we got that. Same thing with this. Again, just kind of scrape from the back of the drumstick or the leg, and you'll get most of the cartilage this way. As you can see here. Try to remove any meat that you have. And there we go. Set that aside. And just double check. Now I'm going to go into a chef's knife here. Now we're going to cut the thigh. However you want to cut it, size. As you can see there. I'll eventually get this moved away. Alright, so we're going to cut that in. Dark meat, you want to cut it, you can cut it. Most of the cartilage is completely removed, and if it isn't, you'll run into it. So we're going to cut. And again, dark meat on the bottom. Here's our thigh. We're going to slice. And we're getting nice good slices out of that. Set those in. All right, so we're going to go ahead and remove the wings. These you may use for stock. So remove those. Remove this. Okay, go ahead and remove that. This is, remember, white meat. And we got this right on top. Just like that. And just break that down. We got more here on the bottom. You can remove that on the bottom. And you got excess meat here that you can remove. This part, pull out any excess meat you have on here, and this is also going to be used for stock as well. So just removing all that. Now we're down to the breast. You got a little bit of the breastbone here that we'll use as well. So the way you want to do this, just going to cut along the bone. It's, again, basically a Y shape. And cut through. We got one breast there. And we'll set it in here for now. Do the other one. And just follow along the bone. You'll run into the bone, which is the wishbone, is right here. I'll show you. Cut across that other part. Perfectly cooked. And then at this point we are going to remove any excess meat from here. And we'll set it down. Kind of space out the dark. Now let me just show you the wishbone here. The wishbone is actually right here. We're going to grab that wishbone. Hopefully it doesn't break on us. Usually it does. Pull out that white meat. And here you go, wishbone. And usually you want to let it dry before you actually make a wish, because it's really pliable. Usually if it breaks, it just breaks on the top. So again, throw that into the stock. And then again, you're just working with all the white meat. Go ahead and remove this. Just use your knife. You got a lot of good white meat here. So again, remove the bone. And then you may have a little cartilage, but not much. You can cut through those as well. I'm going to get the other one. And if you need your knife, you can cut through. And we have all this. And again, you're keeping your area clean while using the sheet pan. It captures all the juices that would otherwise go onto the table. And again, just work with this. And pull out any meat that you can off of this. All right, I think we're good here. And now we have all this excess white meat. Just kind of skim through it. So we have all this here. And again, I've got this nice, beautiful carcass here, which I will use for stock. But again, in the meantime, I'm going to remove every piece of meat I can. And we are good to go. So we'll set this again, every piece of the meat, and I think we're good. All right, now we're left with all this white meat. At this point, we are going to remove the boning knife, and we are going to cut this meat into smaller portions, more edible sized portions. We're going to set this all on the dark meat. Now what I like to do is I like to go dark meat in the center, and I'll show you guys. And then we'll go white meat just over the top off to the side. So again, we'll place this in the side. I'm going to show you guys here in a second. All right. All right, let me remove this. Let's clean any excess meat that we have. So, just so you guys can see, again, here's the nice breast, very tender. We've got the dark meat in the center. We got the white meat off to the side, so that's what I'll do with the breast. I'll put each one. You could probably go a smaller pan. This is the size pan I have. So we're going to go ahead and cut this breast into nice slices. And there we go. So again, just slice, make it look nice, present it nice. And then you could literally, if you want, cover it up, put that little broth in there, and then put it in the oven for like 10-15 minutes just to kind of warm it up again after it sits for a while and after you're working with it. But as you can see, this turkey is perfectly cooked. I pulled it again out at 160. Literally, it was like 158. Let it rest for, I think it was a little over an hour. I'll lay that out. And again. Yeah, any size you want. If you like it nice and thin, you can do it thin, but a little thicker for me here. I want a nice good slice. I don't want a real thin deli style turkey slice here. I want it to be a little bit thicker. We'll put this on the other side. Get all your excess meat. There's your turkey. So you got your dark meat in the center. You got your white meat or your breast and your wing onto the side there. All right, onto the gravy. This is going to be a really easy one to make. So as you can see, we have all of this excess. So I'm going to go ahead and throw some of this in here, and we're going to scrape it all off. Scrape out all that nice, those bits. And we'll get this all in. Get all that excess broth, stock, all in there. Beautiful gravy. Get it all. Little gravy. Okay, so you can do this several ways. I'm going to show you the easiest possible way here. Now, if you have an immersion blender, that's going to be very helpful, because what I'm going to do with this one, and again, if let's just say you don't have one, you're going to skim all the excess fat off of it. Or another way is you can just literally put flour. I could make a roux, you know, take off the excess turkey fat, add some flour to it, and then it makes a paste. Then I would use the broth and thicken it up, okay? But if you do have a blender or an immersion blender, this is going to be a lot easier for you, and then you can eventually strain it if it's a little bit lumpy or if it's just not as fine as you'd like it. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a whisk. Now this thing probably has enough flavor already that I may not even have to add any salt or anything. As you can see though, it's got pieces of meat in there. So if you want to remove some of the meat, that's fine. Again, the fat rises to the top and thicken it up, okay? But if you do have a blender or an immersion blender, this is going to be a lot easier for you, and then you can eventually strain it if it's a little bit lumpy or if it's just not as fine as you'd like it. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a whisk. Now this thing probably has enough flavor already that I may not even have to add any salt or anything. As you can see though, it's got pieces of meat in there. So if you want to remove some of the meat, that's fine. Again, the fat rises to the top. Put this in some kind of separator where you can pour it into a little container that has that separates the fat from the juice. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use, again, I don't necessarily have to use this if I don't want. I can just put the flour in it. And again, depending on how much you have, like this looks more or less like maybe a little over a quart. So again, you want to go a little under and work your way. Add more if you need it. I'm going to go ahead and add, this is about a little less than a half a cup of flour. Okay. And then we're going to go ahead and, now if you do it with a whisk, it's going to get lumpy. But so if you have an immersion blender, it's going to work fine. Here's the thing, you got to get the fire on. In order for this to thicken, you must have at least a simmer on this. So again, get this going. We'll get it incorporated at least. We got that. Now, this thing needs to come to a simmer for it to start to do its magic, which would be to thicken up. And again, just kind of stir and let it come up to a simmer. We're going to taste it just to see what we need as far as if we need more water, if it's too salty, if we need to add a little salt and pepper. It should be fine. Actually, I'm going to add a little water. It's good. And here's the other thing, you guys, if you make mashed potatoes, again, if you're going to have with that gravy, you got to know how much salt to put on those mash. So possibly just slightly under on your mash on the salt, pepper. Let the gravy do the magic for flavor, because you don't want it to taste perfect. Then once you add the gravy, you've added more salt. So you got the salt on that mash, and you have that salt from the gravy. That can make it too salty. So you just go slightly under. All right, so again, I'm going to add a little water to it. And again, it's not salty, but it's probably needs to be tamed down a little. All right. Let me wash my spoon. And again, this doesn't start to thicken into a gravy until it starts to simmer. So at least I got a nice smooth consistency with that immersion blender. If again you have a regular blender, you could literally thicken it up. And again, it may be a little lumpy, but then eventually transfer it to your blender and then run it. All right, more water. That's it. That should do enough. It's actually really good. I just want to tame it down a little. And then we'll let see what it comes to. Now, if it's too thick, again, like I said, I put a half a cup, which is about right. I have maybe almost a cup of fat on the top just by looking. Then roughly it's equal parts. So if you have like a half a cup of fat, you're going to use about a half a cup of flour. So just by a visual, I could tell it was roughly about maybe a little more than a half a cup. So I put a little bit slightly under. But look how much gravy you're making. It's all natural gravy. You don't have to buy gravy. You got your turkey looking really nice and moist, super moist. Extremely moist. Not overcooked. That's probably the most important thing. Just make sure that you use a probe thermometer, and you want to check it right at the fattest part of the breast. And again, if you want to go by the timer, that's perfectly fine. Pull it out right away. As soon as you see it pop, it's good. Now again, it's probably going to be about 10 degrees over, more than likely, anywhere from 5 to 10, maybe up to 15 degrees over. Roughly 170, 175, 180. Again, you still have a nice good turkey, but again, don't let it go too long. That's where most people get dry turkey. They cook it too long, they're thinking they need to cook it because it's so big, they want to make sure it's cooked and not undercooked. And that's probably the most important thing, just making sure that you have a probe thermometer and then go ahead and monitor it. And again, I gave it 45 minutes at the very beginning so I could rotate it. And then in that 45 minutes, if you see on the bottom, you've got little little drippings from the fat on the bottom. That's when you add your water. And I use 2 cups of water. And that was all I needed. Then I rotated it one more time, and then I let it go at 325. And eventually I checked it, it was at 160, I'm sorry. And then we let it rest for at least, it was a little over an hour, probably an hour and 15 minutes. Still hot. As you could see when I was breaking down the breast, it was still hot. And by the time you're done, yes, it's probably not going to be hot, so that's when you'll add a little broth, cover it with some foil, possibly. Give it about 10 minutes, and you should be good. All right. So this is starting to thicken up. As you can see, it's starting to get to that simmer. When we get to that stage, if we need to, we'll put in some more flour to thicken it up more. And again, it depends on how thick you want it. All right, so this is going to start to thicken up. As you can see, it's already starting to. Let's let it start to come to a simmer. And then again, another important step is once it does that, you want to let it simmer for about 5 minutes. You want to cook out the starch in the flour. So let that starch cook out, and then you should be good to go. And then again, watch over it. You don't want it burn it on the bottom. And I can tell just by looking, I'm going to probably end up using a little more flour. It's already got the fat in there, so again, it's all good. That gravy's good. All right, so we do need to add a little more water. It's really good, but I don't want it too salty. So again, is it a little salty? Yeah, it's a little bit salty. So we're going to add more water. And again, if we wanted to add broth or stock to it, you can, but water's perfectly fine. And I think that this is probably what we'll need. This is going to be perfect right here. And again, we got that nice consistency. Again, if you want it thicker, we'll add a little more flour to it. At this point, if I wanted to, let's say I'm too high for the immersion blender, I can just kind of throw a little in at a time, just like that. You don't want to do it all at once. You don't want to lump it, because if you do, you get lumpy gravy. So again, I'm just using a nice sifter, throwing it a little at a time, and just like that. I think we're just about there. I think that's it right there. Perfect. One more. All right. That's it. All right, so now at this point, we got it more or less where we want it. We've added more water. Again, if you want it thicker, add more flour. All right, we're going to let that simmer a little bit. So make sure it gets all its flour in there again. 5 minutes. Let that starch cook out. Again, I got it on high, but I'm standing over it and stirring constantly. And we are set. Lower her down. Give it one last taste. And we nailed it. It's perfectly fine. Now, let's say you want your gravy a little darker. You could add like some browning agents that they have. Kitchen bouquet is one example. I personally don't like using them, but that's an option for you if you want a nice, good, darker brown gravy. And look how much it made. We made enough for this whole turkey, literally. That's it. All done. All right, there you go. Again, what I'll do with this turkey is I'll put a little foil in there. Again, just to get it warm just before I'm ready to serve. Put it in for maybe, again, get your oven preheated to 350. Put some foil over it. Put some stock inside. That's key. Okay. You could, and here's even better. You might want to get that stock and make sure it's already hot. So this will help to heat it up a lot faster. Okay. So then you get that stock, put it in there, cover, go into the oven. Oh, maybe 15 minutes. It's heated up and perfectly cooked. All right. Happy holidays.